Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Back with you with part 3 of this spirit-led teaching. Because if it ain't spirit-led, it's dead. Who are the true Jerusalem? Who are the true Jerusalem? The true Jerusalem are those who are in the eternal Jerusalem, Christ in the Spirit, and not in the flesh. And not in the flesh, practicing religion, whether it be Judeo religion or Bible-based religion, anything outside of Christ's Spirit, you're uncircumcised under the law. You're uncircumcised under the law. And the law was not made for a righteous man. The law will judge you to death. It will judge you to death. No grace or mercy can be given to you under the law. So circumcision is Christ, and Christ alone is the circumcision. He's the true circumcision. And the offense comes when those that are outside of the circumcision, the uncircumcision, being Jew and Gentile, receive the gospel. The gospel becomes an offense to them, because with the gospel, you have to deny yourself. And when you deny yourself, you deny everything you thought you were in this fallen world, which is deceived by sin. Everything you thought you were in this fallen world. Your racial identity, it all begins with your racial identity. Race, the religion of race, the politics of race, and the way of race, which is your culture, it becomes an offense. Because every culture has their own God. This is why as a true Christian, I know God through Christ, but God really was a blank check given to you by the devil that you got to fill out, and you really got something in your image and likeness, as opposed to what we fell from, which is the image of God. Because when we fell from the Christ of God, we fell from the image of God. Romans 1:21 says that we had gods in our own image and likeness. We had gods in our own image and likeness. That we created gods in the image of mankind, and four-footed beasts and birds. Okay. When you got a God in your likeness, then that's the worshiping of self. That's the worshiping of self. So the Jews, according to the flesh, they are the children of the flesh. They're not the children of God, but the children of the promise that are in the true Jew, they're counted as the seed. Now, Christ being a Jew, because he's the eternal Jerusalem. Jew is short for Jerusalem. Jew is not a race. Judaism is a religion. The Judeo religion in the flesh was to point you to the heavenly Jerusalem, which is Christ in the Spirit, where there's neither Jew nor Greek. You see, in the Jews practicing of circumcision, they being given the covenant of circumcision, but yet they themselves in spirit were uncircumcised. But yet they had the covenant of circumcision in the flesh, but yet while they practiced the covenant of circumcision in the flesh, they themselves were uncircumcised in spirit. And the biblical church is no different. They being biblically active in the flesh, yet they're uncircumcised in spirit, not understanding that we have to go from the acts of the flesh to the fruit of the Spirit, which is the evidence that you have gone from the religion of Christ to the eternal reality of Christ, which is the true circumcision. Because the fruit of the Spirit is the circumcision of the Spirit. We have to be circumcised from the inside out. From the inside out. Spirit, soul, and body. Let us go to Romans 10, 1 through 4. Romans 10, 1 through 4. Romans chapter 10, Paul says, brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they may be saved. He said his prayer to God for Israel, that was his heart's desire. And remember, delight yourself in the Lord, he'll give you the desires of your heart. For Israel is that they shall be saved. Christ, who is the true Jerusalem, he's also the true Israel of God. And the true Israelites are those that are in the true Israel of God. Just like the true circumcision are those who are in Christ. Well, the true Israelites are those that are in Christ, because Christ himself is the eternal Israel of God. He's the eternal Israel of God. And the reason Paul prays and his heart's desire is for Israel that they may be saved is because Israel took an offense to the gospel. Because Israel, according to the flesh, thought they were the true seed of God. They were the chosen people of God, but they were never the children of God. They were the chosen people of God, but they were never the children of God. And this is why Paul is praying for them to be saved. And they will be, because there's an election there as we speak, according to grace. There's an election there as we speak, according to grace. So he says, brethren, it's my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel, that they may be saved. He says, for I bear them record that they have a zeal for God, but not according to knowledge. They have a zeal for God, but not according to knowledge. Not the knowledge of the Spirit. It was the religion that was given to them for a time and a season by the Spirit. Remember, they are the children of the flesh. So they have a zeal for God, but not according to righteousness, not according to knowledge, not according to Christ. For they being ignorant of God's righteousness, which all acts that they carried out pointed to, for they being ignorant, spiritually ignorant of God's righteousness, and going about to establish their own righteousness, they being ignorant of God's righteousness by revelation of the Spirit, and going about to establish their own righteousness according to the letter of the Spirit, have not submitted themselves to the righteousness of God. Well, who is the righteousness of God? The righteousness of God is Christ. Where are you submitted? James 4:7 says to submit yourself to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. When you submitted to Christ in the Spirit, who is God, when you submitted to the image of Christ in the Spirit, then Christ will manifest to the flesh by the fruit of the Spirit. And the devil will flee from you. See, I didn't want to go through the whole thing. When you submitted to Christ in the Spirit, Christ through you will manifest to the flesh by the fruit of the Spirit, and the devil's going to flee. But who are you submitted to? Are you under a pastoral office, or are you in the gift? Are you under an apostolic office, or you in the apostolic gift? You got to go from the office to the gift, the religious office to the gift. Then you're going from the act to the fruit. They've not submitted themselves to the righteousness of God. So everyone not submitted to the righteousness of God is uncircumcised. They're uncircumcised. They're not born of the Spirit. For Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believes upon Christ. But you can't believe on Christ till you see Christ. And you can't see the righteousness of God until you're circumcised into it. Because only once you become a true believer do you spiritually mature into becoming a true Christian. But you got to become a true believer first. For Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believes. He's the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believes. This is why Galatians 5:1 says to stand fast in the liberty wherewith Christ had made us free, and be not again entangled with the yoke of bondage. Who made us free? Christ made us free. It says to stand fast in that liberty, in the liberty of the Spirit, whereby Christ had made us free from the flesh. We have to stand fast and be not again entangled with the yoke of bondage. So Paul's desire in Romans chapter 10, 1 through 4, was that Israel be saved. Israel according to the flesh, because Israel according to the flesh took offense to the gospel of Christ in the Spirit. And false Christians are continually telling these people that they are the true children of God, and they're not preaching the gospel of the cross to them, because that'll be an offense to them. So they're feeding their flesh, they're tickling their flesh, they're telling them the very things that they want to hear. Fake Christians do that. You see, a false Christian will rather be falsely loved before being truly hated. Me being a true Christian, I'd rather be truly hated and not falsely loved. I don't do fake. I'll embrace a true enemy before I ever accept a fake friend. I'll embrace true hate before I ever accept fake love. But with the false Christian, it's vice versa. When you fake, even if it's true hate, you can't deal with it. You rather have fake love. You'd rather be falsely loved than truly hated. I don't want to go too far on that. And that brings us to the conclusion of part 3 of this teaching. I was touching on that in regard to what false Christians go over there to Jerusalem and do, and how false Christians suck up to the Jews just to tell them what they want to hear. To tell them what they want to hear, but yet these people profess to be true Christians, and Christian means Christ-like. And yet they profess Christian, but in the very presence of someone who may be in the Jews' religion, they'll deny Christ. And just pucker up to that religion. Well, this brings us to a conclusion of part 3 of this teaching. Love you in the Lord, know it will be a blessing to you. And this is all the work of the Lord. So the Lord will open this all up to your spirit and bring it to your spirit so that you can receive it and understand it in the manner by which you have to. Because we as people, we are not perfect. But God's imperfection, if you're a chosen one, a forechosen one, his imperfection is going to shine through his perfection is going to shine through all your imperfections. So worry not. Love you in the Lord. See you in part 4 of this teaching.